Well, good evening and welcome along to Business Today. Hope you are doing fine. I'm JORAMPAUL SONKO with Winnie Weeds and Akawichi on Sign Language. We're coming to you live from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. Now, we kick it off with officials from the Public-Private Partnerships Unit, which have called on legislators to support them in funding their unit with close to 5 billion Uganda shillings in the next financial year for feasibility study for operational ISO project development. Now, PPP is a unit of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And in this report, Samla Hanifa brings to us more details.
According to the Director of Public-Private Partnerships Unit, Jim Mugunga, the unit operates on a small budget, which is not enough to cover its activities fully, which has affected their functionality.
Mr. Chairman, there's another, in the law, there's something called the Project Development Facilitation Fund. Again, the members of Parliament then realized that for us to be able to move to do projects the way I've explained earlier, we needed a fund to study those projects so that we have a bank of projects that we can go to the market and present to investors. But Mr. Chairman, what has happened is that the Act created the fund. The fund exists in name, but it has never received a shilling. So it has not been operationalized. And that's a weakness, because again, Mr. Chairman, that means we'll rely a lot more on the ministries if they budget for studies, which they hardly do, and therefore the exposure remains the same.
Mugunga says their main objective is to find projects that bring in money into the country, but not just to do projects, just to look good before government, but all these needs proper funding.
Mr. Chairman, we thought that if we got seed money, even if it's 5 billion, this would unlock the funding. The law, the Parliament then explained that we could use the PDFF and populate PDFF differently. So part of it would be appropriation, and that's why we think this seed money would be a good one, because, Mr. Chairman, the little effort we've done, we've had the partners willing to put money for project development.
The committee has recognized the work done by Public-Private Partnerships Unit, especially in giving technical assistance to ministries, departments and agencies, undertaking capacity building programs as well as undertaking PPP's sensitization programs.
I have seen that you have really undertaken quite a number of projects, and indeed, based on your recommendations, you're saying you don't have sufficient funds. I think this is something that the committee should be able to look at, and given the kind of expertise that you need to help you do a proper job. Mr. Chairman, if there is any way government is going to save money, this unit should be given special attention.
According to the legislators, Public-Private Partnerships Unit should further take keen interest in the feasibility studies before projects are carried out, because there are some projects that are just costing the country, and give an example of the Lubowa Hospital project, among others.
Like Bujagali, like the bypass, which we have already spent almost 20 years, undertaking Lubowa, because a unit like this one should have done a proper feasibility studies to give government accurate information, so that when we go into the partnership, the triple Ps, we really have a sense in which that we would be able to get value for money in any kind of government undertaking.
The committee has further committed itself to supporting the unit when they come back to discuss their budget allocation. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at Davos 2023 as aspirations to defriendment of the global economy discussions have kicked off. Now, for decades, corporate leaders, billionaires and politicians have congregated in Davos, Switzerland, under the banner of creating links that can aid in the resolution of global issues. Now, today marked the start of the World Economic Forum, which is hosted in the ski resort town in the Alps since the early 1970s. Now, 2,700 people, a record number, are anticipated to attend, primarily from the G7 member states. We do have more in this report.
As 2023 unfolds, the world's biggest economies have once again convened in the snowy city of Davos, Switzerland to deliberate on urgent issues shaping the direction of global economies at the backdrop of the lustrous COVID-19 pandemic. The annual week-long retreat spanning till 20th this month attracts the world's most decisive and influential leaders across business, government, media, academia, civil society, among other denominations, to deliberate and achieve some solutions on current and anticipated challenges through constructive dialogues and public-private cooperations. With countries fighting to weave through an ease on climate change, inflation, war, and economic slump, pandemics and epidemics that have disbanded the conventional operation lines of trade and cooperation, business and markets, this year's summit intends to reshape all this. Food security, climate change, mental health, and education are all included in the Crystal Awards ceremony on day one of the World Economic Forum, but climate awareness stands out. Tomorrow, more on the agenda will be the global energy mix that will master trends in the global energy sector as the world pushes for a low-carbon global village. More to this shall be the insight into a looming recession, steel, climate protection, and the geopolitical debate over globalization, and interestingly, a message from the embers of a dying economy, Ukraine, as the First Lady Olena Zelenska makes communication. By the time Friday arrives, there will have been extensive discussions, climaxed by deliberations about the future and global innovations and startups, the state of the economy, and the monetary policy that a fiat money system has shaped. Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
There's a gleam and worry for farmers. Although the reduced maize prices are excellent for consumers, they are a nightmare for many farmers. The farmers anticipate losses due to the declining price of maize ahead of a large harvest. Now, due to the abundant availability of maize after the harvest, prices for maize will range from 1,000 to 500 shillings per kilogram from now till April. Samuel Kirimunda compiled this report.
Due to lack of maize supply, the cost of maize per kilogram was sold for 2,500 in December 2022. Farmers will certainly experience losses during the approaching bumper season, which has already begun as a result of the abundant crop supplies. According to Dr. Dika Mganga, president of the Federation of Uganda National Farmers Association, farmers will be most negatively impacted, which will result in low productivity.
During the bumper, like we are waiting for a bumper harvest right now, and you will see the prices of maize will go down. On average now it's around 1,000 a kilo, but once the harvest starts, and the lowest you can get is around 1,000. When the harvest starts, you will see what is going to happen to the maize prices. This can go up to 200, 250, 400.
Speaking to wholesalers and farmers in the interim revealed that additional taxes were expected since farmers did not receive the amount of money they had anticipated due to increased fuel prices. Businessmen who use fuel mostly to transport maize will be affected because even taxes are going to be very high. Previous year, maize prices were hiked due to the fact that we did not have enough maize in the store, but we had much rain. Farmers grow enough maize and they are now harvesting. Luanga Fred, a wholesaler in Chisenyi, says that while prices are falling, there is still hope that they would climb owing to competition from neighboring countries. For instance, Kenya removed taxes from imports of maize from Uganda. This will definitely increase the competition.
Prices of maize going down is due to the supply. It means this time supply is higher than demand, and in most of the places people got maize because there was a lot of rain. That is why the prices are low at this time. But they might not remain there. Reason being, at this time, we have people from Kenya and Rwanda who are buying maize from Uganda. That means time will reach when the competition will be high, and for that matter, the prices may rise.
Maize is the country's most significant grain crop, accounting for more than 40% of all calories consumed, both in rural and urban regions. Due to changes in people's eating patterns, the crop has gradually become the staple food in many regions of the nation. A lower price will ease the high expense of basic foods, especially as the start of the new year school approaches. Andrew Barije, Samuel Chirimunda, Smart 24, Business Today.
All right, now mid-2023 holds a lifeline for Uganda's oil adventure that has been enforced by oil commercialization efforts in both the ending and upcoming financial years. The final investment decision on the refinery, which is a major step in upstream activities, is highly awaited amidst coexistence efficiency with the East African crude oil pipeline project. Now, in this report, we look at a birthright for Uganda's oil and gas.
For the ending and upcoming budget priorities, oil commercialization has been high on the radar. Development of the minerals, oil and gas resources saw the Ministry of Finance shove 904 billion shillings for the commercialization of these in the ending financial year. As this year starts, more is expected to materialize from the emerging sector, as the Uganda National Oil Company denotes in its observation.
We are very anticipated of this year. We really look forward, because once we can get closure, financial investment decision of the refinery, I mean, we are happy and laughing, because we have our resource not only exported as crude, but refined and ready to use here. Nothing beats that. That vision of building a refinery has always been the head of state's vision, but it's a very good vision, because people need to get their oil here. You need to have the fuel ready to enter your car. You can't do that with crude.
The government of Uganda has often been accused of being a tough and a rigid negotiator. Could the ongoing debate about the energy transition influence change, as the Uganda National Oil Company was recently challenged in implementing provisions in the joint venture partnership with One World to finance the national strategic oil reserves?
Until today, it remains an unfunded priority. So the recommendation to cancel the contract has also slowed down the planned infrastructure upgrades worth $8 million by the joint venture partner due to the uncertainty of sanctity of the agreement. This recommendation also negatively impacted the utilization of the Ginger Storage Terminal facility.
Uganda's Alberta and Graben refinery project, to be domiciled in Hoima, will be one of the fat oil and gas infrastructure projects to look out for in Africa as this year unfolds. The 60,000 barrels per day refinery is a major among the 70 new oil and gas projects expected to benefit the involved economies, although still challenged by financing and coexistence efficiency with the ECOP.
So once we get financial investment decision for the refinery, then that will kickstart a totally different development, construction for the refinery. And the return on investment on that project is good for the country. Yeah, so we look forward to that.
With the flames still high in the atmosphere, the refinery and other upcoming projects await the scornful scrutiny of environmental protection amid a net zero and low carbon oil industry. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, right now, let's look at the civil societies organizations' position on the financial year 2023-2024 national budget framework paper. The civil society organizations have raised concern over the high government spending, going to salaries, interest payments, and commitment fees rather than development expenditure. They claim that among other productive ventures in the budget framework paper, government should allocate more funds to the Uganda National Bureau of Standards to improve standardizing and certification of Ugandan products to hit the international market. Petson Mumbere reports.
The civil society groups have urged the government to make sure that the proposed budget is focused on advancing economic recovery and the Ugandans' socio-economic change. They claim that, among other productive endeavors, the government should allocate more funds to the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, UNBS, in the budget framework paper to improve standardization and certification of Ugandan products for them to hit the international market.
Our trade with outsiders, with Kenya, with Europe, most of our products have been rejected because of poor standards. You are all aware of our maize, which have aflatoxins, very high levels of aflatoxins. So we are asking government to reconsider to put more resources in UNBS.
What are those key areas that we should put our money on? Now, the key areas that we should put our money on is what now we are raising here. And our concern is the areas where money should be going, like agro-industrialization. Jane talked about issues of trade negotiations, but we're not seeing resources going there. Resources are going to areas which, to us, we think is not a priority.
They called on government as well to prioritize recruitment of staffs at the UNBS for its understaffed to improve supervision, training of business community, consumers on standards compliance and certification. They also urged government to consider lowering the cost of certification services for medium and small enterprises.
According to a number of papers, 54% of the products, Ugandan products on the market, are substandard. Yet, the cost of certification is really high at 1 million per parameter, or 500,000 for the MSMEs. We also see that the UNBS is understaffed, and in fact, some border posts don't have a presence of UNBS.
According to UNBS Annual Report 2021-2022, UNBS allocated 60.774 billion through UNBS non-tax revenue resources of inspection, verification, testing, and sale of standards. Pedison Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's talk matters operationalizing road funds. Roads are the most expensive assets in Uganda, and therefore they should be prioritized, and the key issues like road maintenance should be taken seriously. The maintenance of roads, walkways, bridges and tunnels on a regular basis would enhance road infrastructure, and in addition to enhancing city planning to lessen traffic congestion and improve traffic flow. Bronia Katusime with the report.
The Uganda Road Fund was created by legislators who recognized a need for it and has been in operation for the past 13 years. When considering the development of new roads in Uganda, the repair of existing ones should be prioritized more.
However, this is an issue of, again, sensitization and education. It is wrong economics, overloading a lorry with sand and damaging the bridges, because eventually the taxpayer is the same forwarders will be paying more taxes to replace this. But for us, it's more of the issue of enforcement on accident control by UNRA, and also enforcement at the local government level.
If investment in roads is not done in a timely manner, we shall always pay the price as years go by. According to Wanda Richard, the reallocation of 1 billion shillings per district as road funds is unfair to the districts that have geographical hindrances like mountains.
The debate regarding the 1 billion per district would be wrong economics. The districts differ in many instances. For example, the soil texture. The sandy areas do not have the same strength with the areas which are stony. Then the hilly areas cannot be compared to the areas that are on a flat area, ground. Now, I don't know, even when you do this planning, whether you consider these factors.
The issues that affect our roads must be solved, such as finding a practical way to prevent highly loaded vehicles from seriously damaging newly constructed roads. The maintenance of roads, walkways, bridges and tunnels on a regular basis would enhance road infrastructure in addition to enhancing city planning to reduce traffic congestion and improve traffic flow. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at funding higher education institutions. Uganda's education sector, which was severely impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak, is making progress to its recovery. However, funding is still needed to support the growth, development and sustainability of higher education institutions like the tertiary, vocational and universities. 8.6% of the overall budget for the financial year 2022-2023 is projected to go towards the education sector. We have more in this report.
Resources such as research, government lending schemes, and special awards offer funding to higher education institutions. However, because there are not enough finances, these institutions have had to raise their tuition costs. Thus, the government should diversify the sources of these fundings.
A challenge, as we have said, because these private universities do exist in our country. But what does the government do? Once a university currently, because of resources that is available, once you are chartered, the students in those private chartered universities do benefit from their own scheme. What we are doing as a National Council is to keep on urging with government and parliament to make sure that the fund that goes to their own scheme is increased, so that a number of students are able to benefit. Because even currently, it's still limited to STEM, science, technology, and the other subjects. But we believe that if the funding was adequate enough, we would be able to move along that side. Because with private universities running on their own, depending on tuition, it's a big challenge.
The lack of facilities to advance research into better possibilities prevents students from utilizing the benefits of their research. Because of the low budget established for students, the education sector lacks all of the required facilities to support research conducted by students in higher education institutions, resulting in inability to meet their targets.
Learners cannot manage to do research and generate what they have researched about when they don't have money. So in the due course, I think the government should either also fund these projects. Otherwise, what will be researched will not be generated at the end of the day.
Higher education research is stagnant since it never produces useful results for students. The government's meager facilities continue to fall short of the students' expectations, who have eagerly embraced the idea of being self-employed job creators.
The research is funded more. I think the products may be visible. For example, I can also talk about in terms of the new curriculum, whereby this curriculum is hands-on, whereby if the learners in whatever they are discovering and coming up with is being funded more, it can come up, we can see more products coming on board. Science and innovation can improve, whereby we may not see we may see the reduction in a number of job seekers, and we may see job creators instead.
The education sector is a wide ecosystem that supports economic development that needs to be facilitated at all levels. Various organizations should come up with a streamlined plan to support all education programs.
The education industry has got a very wide ecosystem, wider than any other sector. When you look at the education sector, every other economic sector rotates around education. That's why you find that when the schools close, you find almost all sectors of the economy come down. They suffered even much more during the lockdown for 2 years.
Higher education institutions are expected to raise funds made from research by students. However, the education sector is still lacking enough money to facilitate the research. National Council for Higher Education advises students in higher institutions to embrace research in order to receive funds for their development project. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and Chambogo University have signed a memorandum of understanding in an effort to increase coffee consumption in Uganda. The agreement calls for the establishment of a coffee shop at the university grounds. Nabyunga Monica has the details of this one.
coffee business production, but recently now we are looking at also coffee consumption. And the Kingdom of Uganda has done very well in mobilizing the population. And we want to see even how we can do much more with the Kingdom of Uganda, but also other cultural and religious institutions and everybody in the country.
Kyambogo University Vice Chancellor Professor Eli Katunguka expressed the agenda behind their collaboration with Uganda Coffee Development Authority and what they expect out of it.
We've been discussing with the Uganda Coffee Development Authority over a long time now. They approached us and they came up with a proposal to promote consumption of coffee in Uganda, starting with students, and to train our students in the coffee value chain. And we thought that was good to start with, so that our students can get the skills to add value to coffee and also to see coffee as a business. So we are killing many birds with one stone.
Uganda is the East African region's coffee king, and South Sudan is its main export market. However, Uganda is also rated 8th in Africa, with Italy as its primary market for its coffee. Monica Nabyonga, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And of course, that brings us to our first half of the Business Today. When we do return after the break, we return with our coffee cut discussions. Stick around.